Now I wanted to talk about my top 5 favorite hunts. And a lot of people ask, where are your hunts? I have a lot of hunts, hunts on video, times we're out in the woods, but we roll them into strategy content because strategy content helps you guys learn and helps me teach you for many years to come, as opposed to Jeff's Wisconsin 2019 bow buck that lives and dies very fast and is frankly a waste of our time just to put that out. And it's not something that we expect to live for very long. I want videos that actually people are searching and finding 5 years from now so that we can help you out. And it's very important to me. So, not all my bucks that I shoot are on camera either. And you can see right here, we have a lot of bucks, and we'll talk about some that are on the wall here and some that aren't. And a lot of these bucks are going to be ones that we have somewhat kind of video footage for, some kind of tracking for, and that's the ones we're talking about. There's a lot of great hunts that I have and memories of some of these bucks back here, but we're going to talk about some of these that have been filmed and bring those to you. I have a lot more mounts coming. I have 2 from last year coming, and I have about 10 that aren't on the wall right here. So we need some space to fill over here. My buddy Mike Pratt, his buddy Leo, both firefighters in Michigan. Mike's retired, Leo's still serving, but they're coming out for a hunt here next week. They're going to help me block this up on the stairway and get some more deer heads on here. So Mike and Leo, if you didn't know that, that's one of the things you're going to help with, right, when you're coming out. But I'm looking forward to that. Leo actually was the winner recipient of our hunt giveaway for our Father's Day event for Camp Kicking Bear in June. So can't wait to meet Leo, have Mike out here. That's coming soon. But I want to dive right into these, and I believe that I say top 5, I think there's 6 here. But these are memorable for different reasons, but at the same time, there's teaching points with each one of these, and that's really important to me. Again, I'm not putting stuff just for entertainment. I'm not that entertaining. I couldn't do that. Look at the hunting public guys. Those guys are entertaining. Chris B, he's entertaining. I'm not. Those guys are great because they offer a blend of entertainment and teaching, and I'm more slanted towards the teaching end. I really wanted to bring some of these hunts to you, and there's a common strategy with some, but there's at least a strategy point with each one, and I want to share that with you with each of these too. The first one's Diego. Diego is a buck. Dylan started filming with me and working with me in 2016, so it's been over 5 years now. I believe that makes this our 6th season, Dylan?
I believe so.
Which is crazy to think about. I mean, we've shot over 800 videos together, including web classes, and he's probably been in the stand with me at least 200 times. He's traveled with me to Kentucky. Anywhere else you've traveled? Ohio, Michigan,
Illinois, Michigan.
Yeah. So we've been a few different places, and lots of sitting and strategy along the way. But Diego was one of those that was special because that was one Dylan named Diego. He was a buck that we saw on one of the properties we could hunt, and we ended up shooting him on the other one in Wisconsin. And what I liked about Diego is he's one that we thought was 5 years old. We were able to follow him as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old. In fact, as a 3-year-old, I came out and silhouetted against the sky. He was mounting a doe. We're not too far from where I shot him, but out in an open field, just walking through a horse pasture on the way out. And I could see him against the skyline of the town. And it was pretty cool. And he was just this wide, not spindly, but smaller tined buck. He was a 5-year-old. And one of the sits that Dylan and I had, and Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was it October 10th or 8th? It's right around there.
The 12th right in that window there.
Yeah, and we had a major cold front drop, and Diego came into us. He was one we were looking for, and he came in right at last light. He actually worked a mock scrape I think that scrape was maybe 15 yards away, 18 yards, and to the point where the footage was low light enough that I asked Dylan, what is it? I think Dylan said it's Diego. It's Diego. And that buck was coming by. I thought about pulling back, or I thought about shooting him, and it was just, it's early in the season. We have other bucks, and just wanted to see what happened. But as the days passed, I started thinking, boy, shooting 5-year-old Diego might not be a bad buck. And I'm not that picky, but I like to actually hunt. So to me, if I'm going to end my season early, it's going to be on a better buck. I really want to put time in the stand because I enjoy hunting. Diego, fast forward to I think it was October 30th, there's a giant cold front coming in again. And it cleared out in the afternoon, so Dylan and I went and sat. And it was so cool because Dylan was with me in the stand, and Diego was down low off the point. And we had great winds for that. And he ended up walking right by. I just couldn't get a clear shot at him. So cool to see him. And I remember telling Dylan, I bet you we'll have a chance at him tomorrow. He was really starting to move. It was certainly in that pre-rut time. Bucks were starting to cruise. And the next morning, I couldn't wait to go into, of course, a new stand and then hunt Diego. Save that stand. It's a perfect set. And I went in there. I was waiting for Dylan to show up in the morning and waiting for Dylan to show up. I started getting worried. He comes from La Crosse. It was about, say, a 25-minute drive. And you go up, there's a lot of people hitting deer in the area. And it wasn't like Dylan to be late, let alone not show up at all. So I called Diane. She called Jera. We tried to get a hold of Dylan, couldn't get a hold of him. And at some point we realized, and I think it was when I was almost to the stand, I waited about a half hour, and it was about right when, it might have been a minute from the stand on a 35-minute walk in, and realized that Dylan's alarm just didn't go off, and he
had
felt
it on silent, and not even the vibrate was on. So I slept right through it.
Yeah.
I felt horrified when I looked at my phone and saw the time.
And it was, I went to the stand, and it was, I really missed having Dylan there. And that's what I like having Dylan in the stand with me. He does really well. I have yet to, of all the times Dylan sat with me, I don't think he's spooked a deer. Him moving around, doing anything. So that's a feat in itself. And we have the thought that if you can't get it on camera, and this is what's different than a lot of other hunting businesses, don't move. To try to get it on camera, the most important thing is to shoot the buck. And that's what we're there for. First is to shoot the buck, tell the story. It's a reward for a lot of work done. And so, and kind of extending to this, if I don't have a cameraman to go, now I self-film a lot, but I'm just going. And so Dylan didn't show up, and sure enough, hour and a half into daylight, here comes Diego, and I shot him. Now, we had a long recovery with Diego, hit just maybe an inch behind his heart in the lower liver, and that's not a good shot. It was so close. It looked great going in. We had good blood initially, and we did recover him. But Diego was one of those where we put a lot of work and time into. We went into a stand expecting it, and it was all about the cold front, to the point where, we're talking the night before, I think we're going to kill Diego in the morning. And that's part of why Dylan was so disappointed too, because he knew there was a good chance to shoot Diego, and we weren't able to do so. But Dylan was there for the recovery. It was really enjoyable spending that time waiting for Dylan to come in and look for him, and he filmed portions of the recovery. So that was a really good hunt that I always remember, and especially being that first season that Dylan was filming with me, that was a special time. Now, my Ohio public land buck, this was a cool buck because I think it was that year too, or 2017, I'm not sure, but it was right around that time, either 16 or 17, and we had seen quite a few different shooters at a mock scrape that we had. Those bucks were coming in, and there's one that was there all the time. He's actually right up there, second from the right, all the way up top, and he was on this scrape all the time. And so we enjoyed thinking about hunting him, and it was getting later in the season, and I don't remember the dates. It was around November 20th. It was the Sunday after our opening of deer season in Wisconsin. Southern Ohio is about a week to 10 days behind with the rut. So while it's really winding down, at least daylight activity in Wisconsin at that time, it's still going a little bit in Ohio. We had 40 to 50 mile an hour winds on Friday. Those were passing through so by the time they got to Ohio, that would have been Sunday. Sunday, the winds were dying down. And along with that, it was at least a 30-degree temperature drop from day-to-day highs, maybe even 40. So huge, huge winds. And it was the week before Thanksgiving, so I just couldn't wait to get down to Ohio, even if it was just for 2 mornings. That was my goal. So I stepped on Dante, shot a buck, and that was awesome in the morning. Got to, partake in that whole event. And then after that, it was driving 11 hours, 11 and a half hours, 12 hours all the way out into the forest, down in Ohio, spending the night in my truck, and then hitting the woods and to follow that temperature drop. So I went out in the morning. I remember being cold, and I wasn't cold for long because about an hour and a half, 2 hours in, that target buck came by and was able to shoot him. There was another needle in a haystack recovery. He ended up only going about 100 yards, but some misleading blood went the other way, and that took us off for a little bit. But was able to pack him out and get him out of the woods and enjoyed doing that. It was a very memorable hunt, especially those Ohio bucks. And you can see there's some giants behind me that gross up in the 170s even, or close to 170. And that one was a very special buck because it was public land with a bow. So it's funny how everything's relative to me when it comes to hunting. There's people I know that won't even go hunting unless they have a chance at a 200-inch animal. And to me, that's just not what it's about. I enjoy the hunt, the people with me during the hunt. And so that was the Ohio public land hunt. Number 3, Jake's buck. This will be a short one, but you know, again, the first 2 relied on big major cold fronts. This third one, though, was late season feeding activities and food sources, where we were going back in during muzzleloader in Wisconsin, and there's this goofy horned buck that Jake really liked, and he really wanted to shoot him. And I just knew if we spent some time on those food sources long enough, we'd get a crack. So we had one redneck at that time. It was down in the bottom, and the problem was a lot of deer would come up high pretty far away. So we went to the range with Jake. My muzzleloader's always sighted in for 150. I know it drops 12 to 14 inches at 200. I know what it drops at 225, 250. You know, last year I shot one, the blade buck. I think it was 254 yards, something like that. So I know how much the drop is. I practice that. So when I went out with Jake, sure enough, the goofy horn buck came out. Late season food source action. We hadn't pressured those plots except from hunting from a distance, so it's a non-factor when you go in. And Jake sat on his knee and he steadied the muzzleloader on the window. And what's really cool about this hunt is he shot, and there's a little lag time in there at 184 yards. So by the time the sabot hit the buck and rolled him over, Jake, you could just hear his emotions in the background. You could hear him breathing heavy. He was so excited. I even put a video out on YouTube, and this was way back in the day, but it was called Teenage Raw Emotion, Deer Hunting Emotion, or something like that. And we just had that little clip in there. But it was a really cool hunt, especially to spend it with Jake, and to hear his emotion afterwards was just priceless. Next one was last year. There was a buck that I passed up the year before, and then last year he turned into a tank. He didn't even have brow tines, and he was well into the 150s for score. Just a big, wide-framed, beautiful buck. And that was one that was my target buck last year, and it was a target buck for the neighbors too. I was really happy. I set up on a spot I sat up in 2014, and it was against a cedar on the ground. You just bring a little stool out, you lean it's going downhill to your left, so you lean your left shoulder against that, and it makes for about a 130-yard shot to the mock scrape. And sure enough, the big 9 came out. I had the camera pointed just perfect, and I play around with the settings sometimes, and I shouldn't on the camera, and I hit something on the lens that went from auto to manual, and it just made it so it was blurry. So I had it zoomed in exactly at that point, and it couldn't have come out better. But as soon as I looked at the footage afterwards, I was so frustrated because it was very grainy. It didn't fit in, and I was disappointed with the footage, but I was really excited when I walked up to him and looked at him in person. And he's a beautiful buck. I can't wait to get him back from the taxidermy and add him to the wall of memories here. And so that was a pretty cool one. Now, next to last, and these two are kind of tied, was my muzzleloader buck with Dylan in the stand. That was a second rut hunt. And it was really special because Dylan and I have hunted together a lot, but shooting bucks together, it seems like a lot of times when I hunt the weather, Dylan and I have to set our schedule out a week or two in advance. So if the weather's good, it is. If it's not, we hunt. You know, it's just the way it works. So I'm hunting specific days, and this happened to all come together where Dylan could be in the stand with me for a second rut hunt in early December with a muzzleloader. And I remember thinking there was a storm coming in. It was a really good front approaching. We were hunting on the front side. It was cool temperatures already. It was just perfect time. So we set up in a bedding area, and it happened really quick. Doe came up over the ridge to us. I shot the buck at probably 30 yards with the muzzleloader. Went off to the side. We were celebrating a little bit. Thought I heard him go down, which I probably did. And here he comes staggering below us, following that doe that was in heat. And now looking back at the footage, I didn't need to shoot him again. He was going down, but I did, and he went right down. But we went from bucking our laps to shooting him. All of a sudden he's coming back, and this all happened in such a short period of time, and we're able to get him. And it was a really big celebration with Dylan in the stand. That was pretty cool. I mean, it was fun enjoying that. I was so excited, and that was a very memorable hunt. And I know people like it on YouTube, and some of you said it was their favorite hunt they saw that year. But regardless, it was a special moment with Dylan in the stand. And then finally Kermit last year. Kermit was a special one. You know, this buck right here. And you can see the muzzleloader buck. He's actually right up, oh yeah, right up here, right in the second one over to the left. So second one over to the left is muzzleloader buck. And then finally Kermit. Kermit's right here. And Kermit was our first buck, my first buck on the Minnesota farm last year. So he was the big target buck that we had. He was giant. We started getting footage of him in the end of June, I think, and he was just a giant buck. And I really had my heart set on him, and had a certain stand I really wanted to hunt him from. Went in there. It was if he wins, and when I sat there, the winds were even worse, and so it started getting bad. I ended up sitting there for 20 minutes, and I don't know if you guys have the discipline to do this, but I've been doing it for years. Sit in the stand for 20 minutes. If it's not right, I get out of there, because you do yourself no good by pushing it. So I got out of that stand, and sure enough, he came in from that direction on the trail camera that night. I ended up going back to that stand with snow, cold front, 2 days later, and he ended up coming right in. And Dante was in the stand to film him for the recovery. My friend Skip from Michigan was around for the recovery. And it was a good all-around night with family and friends. And that's what it's about. These bucks are so many memories here. I wish I could film all of them, or could have filmed them all. You know, this buck right here was a giant buck in 2003 right above the door. And that was at the end of a 4-day hunt where we're hunting dark to dark. It was very cold. It never got above 30. Most of the mornings were between 10 and 15 when we went out. It was a Wisconsin hunt. We didn't think it was gonna be that cold. And we were wore out. And so to come to him, it was just a flood of emotions, probably a little dehydration, very tired, and a great hunt. This buck right up, right here, this one, big 8-point, close to 150-inch 8-point. That was a public land, a Michigan buck. And it was third day of the season, cold front buck, major cold front, through on day 2. Went out, it was bright skies, cold in the morning, and it shot him about 10 o'clock, probably 40 yards back in the swamps. And so, you know, all of these I have so many I can go through these, and I've gone through them before. Those are some of my favorite hunts that were somewhat filmed or loosely filmed. And we film the hunts every year, but again, we roll those into strategy videos. I might try to put them on one playlist so we have all those at one time. But so many memories. I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of this trip down memory lane. And I think the constant theme is, you know, Kermit, cold front night on hidden, unpressured food sources. Muzzy buck was a cold front coming through, secondary rut. So many of these bucks, late season, even with Jake, there was snow on the ground, late season, unpressured food sources. Diego with the cold front. And so a lot of these relate to the cold fronts, hunting cold fronts. Of course, I infused that algorithm that I wrote for October Life and Outdoor Life, in 2015 for the November issue. So I wrote that algorithm, and then that's what's been infused into HuntCast for the HuntWise app. I worked with those guys very closely, so when I look at the forecast, it matches my thoughts. And so whether you look up Outdoor Life 2015, figure out the algorithm for yourself and the calculations, or just simply get HuntWise and HuntCast. That's how I hunt, and I hope you enjoyed this trip and down memory lane and these hunting videos, and look for them on my site, because a lot of times if I'm putting videos out about the peak rut, late season, they have these hunts rolled into them within those strategies. And again, you're never going to see Jeff's Wisconsin or Minnesota whitetail, anything like that, because it does you no good, me no good. And again, it's all about teaching, and I hope that we can continue to teach and help you guys out for years to come. Thank you. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.